Coca-Cola and use that particular shade of red, I'm sure Coca-Cola would have an issue with it, since that's their brand color. So, first part of representation, I'm going to talk about consumers. Okay, so, in my opinion, the role of designers is to be communicators. So, you guys have an idea, you have a thought, you have a project, and the goal is to use visual elements, graphical elements, words, to communicate whatever it is you're trying to do. And in order to communicate properly, you obviously have to know your audience. And today's consumer is very, very different than what the consumer of 10 years ago used to be. Today's consumer is very educated. Okay? The internet has made it very easy for people to see, to look up any information they want about any particular company, about any particular brand, about any particular product. There's thousands of review sites out there. Social media has changed the entire landscape for brands as well. So consumers nowadays will trust what something says on social media before they actually trust corporate branding. So it's more challenging nowadays to actually get a corporate message out to the consumer, because you know that your consumer is going to take their time and look at what other people are saying about the brand, look at what the reputation of the brand is online or in other social circles that they normally play. Some of the principles that are moving consumers today, this has been evident on the West Coast for a long time, is definitely a healthy lifestyle. So more and more people are very conscious of the environment they're living in, what they're surrounding themselves with at home and at work, and consumers are looking to improve their lifestyle. Another major moving factor for consumers is healthy eating. Okay? We've all seen the increase of organic foods, local markets, healthy eating, healthier food types. That's definitely driving consumers today. Even though people are challenged and have been challenged for the last couple of years, they're still trying to spend their money as best as they can on healthier foods, more natural foods. And what's interesting is a company like Whole Foods, which sells food much more expensive than a typical grocery store, has actually been thriving in the last 5 or 6 years when a lot of people's incomes have stayed flat. Some other interesting things that consumers are looking for are very simple products. Consumers don't want complicated products anymore. They're looking for products that can simply do what they need it to do. They don't want something to be difficult to learn. They want to be able to buy the product and immediately use it, and the product should kind of show what its intended purpose needs to be. When's the last time you guys have actually read a manual for anything? Right? So an iPhone ships without a manual, and it's probably one of the most advanced devices that people own. People want simplicity. Authenticity is a big factor for consumers nowadays. About going back to what consumers trust about a particular brand. Consumers want products that look honest. They don't want something that looks a little shady or has these crazy claims and never really does what it claims to do. They're looking at brands that are very honest about what they produce. They're not looking for outlandish claims. Even though infomercials are still big, most of the time consumers are not spending their money on something that claims to do 50 million things for them. They want a product that's authentic looking, honest, and they want to relate to a brand that seems to have authentic principles. Technology is a huge driving factor for the last 10 years in consumer products. Apple has really changed the face of consumer technology. Now, it used to be that before, people used to be afraid to buy the complicated phones. Now everybody, regardless of age group, regardless of skill level, regardless of their familiarity with technology, has an iPhone. Technology is a big factor in people's lives. Technology has become much easier to use. I'm sure most of you guys have seen the YouTube videos where someone puts an iPad in front of a 3-year-old or a 2-year-old, and the 2-year-old starts immediately interacting with an iPad. This is an extremely advanced device, which is made so easy to use that a small infant can pick it up and always start to use it. And you're seeing more and more technology actually working its way into people's lives. High-tech coffee makers, high-tech appliances, furniture, smart refrigerators that companies have been talking about for a long time. All those things are kind of working more and more into our everyday lives. Style and substance. So I keep bringing up Apple, but Apple has actually been such a driving factor in a lot of industries in the last 5 or 10 years. But people want products nowadays that have a certain sense of style to them and have a certain substance to them. So this is an ad for Oral-B for an electronic toothbrush. And how boring can you get other than an electronic toothbrush, right? So, but the folks that are OB obviously put a lot of time into making this toothbrush look stylish. And their tagline is sleek and stylish because most people brush with their eyes open. And that's what they use to differentiate themselves from the other 15 or so electronic toothbrushes out there. This style requirement for people is evident in everything nowadays. So even in something as simple as a dustpan and a brush, people will go out of their way and look down the aisle and they'll want something that looks good. For something that, and something like that, they won't hide away in the dust closet. They'll probably keep that out because it looks good, even though it's such a mundane product. Quality and value. More and more brands are selling their products on value. People nowadays are not spending, they're not making as many purchases as they used to, but they're still spending money. And they're waiting to save up for the things that they feel will give them the best value. So before we had this recession, people might have bought multiple things at a time, or might have bought various variations of different things. Now they'll save up, they'll wait for the right product, and they'll buy the product that they feel gives them the most value. Sustainability is obviously a huge factor. I remember 5 or 6 years ago when everybody was saying that this was just a passing fad, that people really didn't care whether a product was really green or not, people really didn't care about the environment. Now it's expected. Okay? Companies, brands have to have some sort of corporate responsibility initiative. They need to be sustainable. They need to be giving back to the environment. And more people actually look for that. And they expect that they're buying a product that is sustainable, and it's not harmful, and it's not toxic. And people are expecting corporations to actually put that into their marketing, put that into their principles, and actually try to make a difference for the environment as opposed to just creating waste. This is just kind of a fun picture. So all the elements that I've talked about: style, substance, sustainability. This is a chair made by a Japanese designer. It's made by reclaimed wood. It's also sustainable fabric, and it's a rocking chair that has an integrated lamp, and as you rock, that motion powers the lamp. So you don't need to plug it in, it's fully sustainable. And if you need a quiet, comfortable chair to do your reading in, you can sit in that and generate your own electricity. Plastics are also still huge, but now more and more people are getting into recycled plastics. So there's a company, Melissa Shoes, in South America that makes really cool shoes out of recycled plastics. More and more companies are making really beautiful things out of recycled plastics. So everything from ornate, fashionable chairs, different types of home accessories, and stylish accessories as well. And you can see here, this chair was done by Cream Rashid. Really, really beautiful chair, all made out of recycled plastics. So I'm going to shift gears a little bit and talk about some current trends and what's actually driving some current trends that you guys have been seeing in the last couple of years. So everybody always asks us at Pantone, so what makes a trend? Okay, how do you guys forecast trends? And it's not an easy answer because you always have to be looking out at everything in the world. So it's cultural events, social events, political issues, the economy, and a lot of times it's also what's hot in entertainment. And you'll see a lot of these trends that I talk about have actually been born in entertainment. So the first trend we're going to talk about is the influence of Africa. Okay, so in 2010, Africa hosted the FIFA World Cup. And in the US, soccer is not that big. But the rest of the world, soccer is the biggest sport. It's the only sport for most countries. Okay? When Africa hosted the World Cup, they had the most amount of tourists that they've ever had in history. So hundreds of thousands of tourists came to Africa to watch these games from all parts of the world. They all were exposed to African culture. And they all saw different African things, culture, food, style. Also around that time, or slightly before this, Time magazine actually had a cover of a very ethnic African-looking woman with African fashion. And more stylists and designers have been paying attention to that. So how does this manifest itself? So now you have all these people that go visit this continent, and they take home a little bit of what they saw. So African culture is very big on highly metallic finishes. Okay? Also very deep, rich browns, blacks, bronze colors. And I'm sure you guys are aware, if you've been looking at what's been selling in stores and apparel and accessories, metallics are huge, have been for a very long time. For last couple of years been growing. This is, for us, is not even a trend anymore. Metallics are now kind of a staple color. They've been very warm metallics. They're not what it used to be, where there was like a lot of cold silvers and just yellowy golds. Now it's kind of a mixture of really warm silvers, a lot of bronzy kind of golds, and a lot of that has been the influence of African culture in design. These metallics manifest themselves in everything from accessories, shoes, apparel, products. And like I said today, you'll see them in just about everything, from graphic tees to even highly metallics finishes on cars. Metallics for graphic designers also are great for packaging. Adding metallics to any type of package immediately increases the perceived value of the package. Okay? Most consumers, when they see a metallic in a package, they feel that this is a premium product. This should be worth more. All the product within this is a better product. And it's a really easy, simple way to just add more perceived value to the product. Another trend is neons. Okay? Neons were really big in the 80s, and then they kind of faded, and then they slowly started coming back in athletic apparel. So on the athletic side with sneakers and athletic apparel, we've been seeing neons for about 5 or 6 years. Now they're actually huge in athletics. But the last few years, you've been seeing it more and more in everything from packaging to apparel to different types of products. You're seeing some old style 60s posters showing up more and more, all having these really strong, bright, saturated neons. Okay? A typical neon color, just a little bit of trivia, a typical neon color will reflect anywhere from 400% to 1,000% of its light. So that's what makes neons so eye-catching. Okay? So when you're putting neons into any design, most designs are not all neon. You just use neons as an accent. But when you're putting neons into any design, you get a real nice pop of color that will draw people's attention. So what brought neons back? Okay? There was this little movie that Disney did last year called Tron. That was a remake from a previous classic. And in this movie, all you saw were these really deep, rich blacks against these really bright, poppy neons. Okay? Like a typical big budget movie, there was licensing, toys, comic books, video games, everything. So it turns into a huge cultural kind of event. That could have helped. The truth is that really neons were already picking up before this point, but a lot of people think that maybe Tron kind of just gave it a little bit more oomph to drive them out even further. These are products that are actually inspired specifically from the movie. These are actual products that were made. Okay? They're not cheap either. So that shoe, that metallic shoe on the bottom is like a $2,500 shoe for a pair of shoes. But they've all been inspired, really high-end fashion accessories inspired from the movie. This particular product, beautiful helix design, is also a shoe. Okay, also kind of inspired from that Tron-esque feel. Neons also manifest themselves in pop culture. So last year also, I'm sure you guys have seen Katy Perry did this video ET, where it was all neons against this kind of real science fiction, futuristic effect, bright colors against a dark black background. You're also seeing them in packaging, so there's a whole line of grappas that have these little neon accents on it, different types of packaging. That's actually Southern California line on the top right. It actually has a neon rubber label all the way around. So you're seeing them in everything, and they actually have a great effect on products. And they no longer have kind of that cheap, cheesy feel of the 80s. Okay, people seem to be comfortable with neons again. Another big thing, moving a little bit into entertainment. So, everybody watch Mad Men? Okay. So, it was hot a few years ago, then it kind of went on this 2-year hiatus, now it's back. Okay. When it was hot a couple of years ago, everybody had a Mad Men line. Okay, so most of us thought, okay, it's kind of over. It's back again. And Banana has reinvigorated their Mad Men line. Good deal for them. They have a whole Mad Men style for men that they're putting together. And this particular, the particular fashions back then are showing up subtly in today's fashions. Okay? It's not as obvious as you would think, but if you start looking at what's in stores today, they kind of have a little bit of a feel from the 60s kind of look of Mad Men. Okay, another big trend that we've seen in the last couple of years is really rich colors. Okay, very rich, very saturated colors, very rich fabrics, heavier fabrics, heavier kind of feel. There's been this whole slew of period type pieces in the last couple of years. So the Borgias on Showtime, big hit. Okay, I don't know if you guys have ever watched the show, but the set design and costumes is incredible. The Tudors. There was another series I think that got canceled, Camelot. All these kind of period pieces where you have these really rich colors against these darker backgrounds. Black Swan, also, which kind of started last year. This whole trend of that heavy eye again. Okay, very dramatic eye effects with makeup. I'm sure Tom will talk to that more than me. But definitely that feel and look from Black Swan definitely is translated more into cosmetics as well. Another big thing that's been driving the whole rich color with black is this whole obsession with vampires. Right? Everything from True Blood, Twilight, there's like 5 or 6 other different spin-offs. Does anybody watch True Blood? It's a cult hit, and it's actually not even, I wouldn't even say it's a cult hit anymore, it's kind of widespread now. There are people that watch True Blood that I would never think would watch True Blood. They still watch it and enjoy the show. This is just some fun stuff to kind of pick out, so how sometimes like something like True Blood can manifest itself. Those are 3 high-end handbags. They're done by different manufacturers. The top one is the Bill. The middle one is the Alcide. If you guys know True Blood, you know these are characters from True Blood. And the bottom is the Eric. Okay, and actually sold that way. Okay, so they're True Blood inspired handbags. Another big trend that we've been seeing is blues. So blue is actually the U.S.'s color. If you were to pick a color for the U.S., it would be blue. Most Americans are very comfortable with blue. Most Americans have something painted blue in their home. Most Americans that have had their homes painted white all their lives, when they finally get risky and try out a color, they go to blue first. Okay? There are more blue kitchens in this country than any other color. Okay. Okay. It's a little bit of trivia. But we're seeing more and more blues showing up in other areas as well. So specifically, really clear, watery blues, very rich, inky blues, like some of the blues you see on the slide. Okay. So one of our theories as to why blues are so important is that suddenly people are starting to pay attention to water. In this country, we're very fortunate. All of us live next to a clean water source. Okay. That's not the case everywhere else. People think that water is a very abundant resource. It's really not. This is kind of the first time I read this, I actually didn't think it was real, but the ancient Romans had access to better quality than half of the world today. So more and more countries are actually stopping and being concerned about their water supply. A lot of developing countries don't have clean drinking water. There's a lot of charities like water.org, which is a pretty good charity that just came up, that's drawing a lot of attention to water. Okay. So 884 million people lack access to safe water. That's a tremendous thing in this world. But this focus on water, we think, is what's actually driving more designers to start feeding this particular watery color, this watery blue color, or this dark interior blue color into their designs. Some other areas to watch for emerging trends, and there's actually on the right, it's not showing up well, but on the right it's an actual eye on that red dot, and it's here. But the Middle East, so I'm sure everybody's heard about the Arab Spring, all the issues in the Middle East. I mean, the Middle East has always had issues, but it's been a lot more dramatic lately, with Egypt throwing off its government, now issues with Syria, issues with Iran, but it's drawing a lot more attention to the Middle East. More and more people are actually paying attention to what's happening there, and we're seeing more of an influx in Middle Eastern culture and design. To the right is actually a symbol that a Japanese designer did for the tsunami that happened in Japan last year. Japan has always had a big influence on style, but the tsunami has kind of drawn the world's attention back to Japan again. And we're starting to see a resurgence of Japanese style and Japanese aesthetic in a lot of different designs. Everything from clothing to actual living space to products. Another big area to watch too is Brazil. Just like Africa, Brazil is going to be hosting the World Cup in 2 years. Okay. Brazil has already been pushing into fashion quite a bit these last couple of years. but now you're going to have everybody's attention on Brazil, okay, for this huge World Cup event. And the Brazilians, this will be like a holy event for them because they're so big into soccer. So, but you'll have the same effect with people actually going to Brazil, going to South America, immersing themselves in Brazilian culture, and then going home with a little bit of it, either maybe buying some things there or being more open to Brazilian culture. And these really bright colors, these greens, these really wonderful kind of rainforesty type feel colors have already been working into design in the last couple of years. So I will talk now moving into specifically color. So we'll talk a little bit about color of the year. So Pantone has been picking the color of the year since 2000. And we pick a color of the year based on not just what's a popular color for that particular year, but also what the current feeling is of the culture, the climate, the economy. So most of the years that we've done this, we usually pick a bright color or a rich color. There was one year in 2006 where we picked a really neutral sand dollar. Didn't do very well at all. Even though we felt it kind of did fit the mood in 2006, people really didn't take to it. The last couple of years, we've gone to very rich colors. This deep blue iris, which is very similar to neat Klein blue, which you guys might have seen a lot of fashion news. Mimosa in 2009, turquoise in 2010. And there was an interesting thing that also happened in 2010 that kind of drove up turquoise as well. There was this other big, huge blockbuster film that actually broke all records. These big, giant turquoise people running around. You guys maybe saw it, right? So that might have helped move turquoise a little bit as well. Last year we had a really bright pink called honeysuckle. And then this year is tangerine tango. Okay? So I'm going to talk a little bit about orange. And I know not everybody likes orange. Okay? Some people do, some people don't. But orange is one of those colors that really has an interesting history. Most people, if you were to go around a room and ask people about a sunset, what would you feel about a sunset? How would you describe a sunset in color? Most people would use the color orange. Okay? Most people are actually, even if you don't like orange, have a very good association with the color orange. Orange, the term orange is actually a new term. Okay? It didn't exist until about 500 BC in Europe. Oranges were native to the South China Sea, and they were brought into Europe in 500 BC. Before that point, there was no word for orange in Europe. There was actually no color for that particular shade. Once they saw oranges come in, they invented the word. Also, oranges in Europe, and through most of Renaissance times, had been considered to be kind of an exotic fruit. They were considered fruits of the gods. They were limited only to royalty and also the religious aristocracy. They were such a exclusive type fruit that certain people, like the Medicis in Florence, they put it on their coat of arms. So, and they worked it into every palace that they owned. So, and it was kind of a way to show their status, kind of show their opulence. Okay, but they had so much power, they had so much influence that they could actually own oranges and paint everything orange. Throughout history, throughout the 19th century, you can see orange in a lot of different artistry, and I'll kind of show you some slides and a lot of different work. Definitely, orange was a favorite color of a lot of artists. And then moving into the 1900s. In the 1930s, that was a very challenging time in the country. So that was a Great Depression. Also around that time, plastics started growing in Toronto. There was this company called the Big Light Company in the 1930s. They were the first company to really promote plastics. They went around to different manufacturers, to different brands, convincing people to start making things out of plastic. And what they did naturally was try to make these things very bright, very colorful. Okay? They used this reddish kind of orangey color because they wanted to try to mimic the look of really high-end Japanese lacquer, because they wanted their products to look like they were higher end, because people had not a very good impression of plastics back then. The other big social issue in the 1930s was that most people were making 40% less money than they had been originally. So fewer people were going out. It was very hard to go out for a dinner or go out for a movie. More and more people were staying home. That was kind of the birth of the board game. Okay, people were staying home. They needed something to entertain themselves. TV wasn't a big thing in the 1930s. So more and more people started using board games as kind of a family event to gather people around. In order to make these board games a little bit more fun, they definitely, board game manufacturers definitely worked in a lot of brighter colors into these things. Also, it was kind of the big heyday of the comic book. So comic books were seen as a nice way to kind of get away from all the troubles the recession was causing. And all the comic books, even until today, always had really high saturation of bright color. In the 50s, we saw album sales pick up. And a lot of people kind of use this softer kind of burnt orange in album covers. The 60s was a really big decade for orange. Good reasons and bad reasons. So obviously it was the drug culture, the birth of the drug culture in the 60s. Okay? And they kind of used orange to kind of push that whole psychedelic feel. Okay? Orange was really big. There was also a time that Bert and Ernie came out. Okay? And Bert and Ernie kind of had these soft, soothing, kind of yellowy orange faces. Andy Warhol also liked to use orange. His shades were a little bit more lurid, but he also used a lot of orange in his work. And there was also the birth of Howard Johnson. Okay. Howard Johnson actually picked up dramatically in the 60s. They loved orange. All their roofs were orange. They used orange in all their branding, and they actually became known as this like white and orange combination. People immediately recognized the Hojo. In the 70s, orange kind of got more of a burnt reddish feel, and it got a little bit more tasteful. It was also the time that a lot of people were pairing orange with avocado, and you had these really memorable interiors that most people would like to forget. But they were really popular colors. Moving up into the 80s. The 80s was the era of Dayglow. And that was kind of the birth of neons, the birth of Dayglow, really bright neon. Also, we had some great artistic work too in the 80s that kind of promoted the happiness and kind of warmth of orange. And it was also kind of the birth of, well, the first time that the U.S. actually got some exposure to North African influence. There was a designer, an Algerian-born designer, that started making a big impact on fashion. You guys know today is Yves Saint Laurent. He came out of North Africa, and there's always been a big fan of orange. In the 90s, we saw the Latin influence. So Latin culture became very popular in this country, and of course, Latin culture brought in all these warm oranges, reds, yellows, and everything that they did. In the 90s, we saw the birth of the colored iMac. I don't know if you guys might be too young to remember, but before the colored iMac, computers were the most boring things you'd ever seen. They were like really drab grays, really drab whites. Consumer electronics, period, came in black. That's it. Okay, you had a couple of silvers every once in a while, but even typical office products like staplers that today you can get any color you want, or just black. Really simple. After the colored iMac, suddenly products started to be made in other colors. Okay, you started seeing people reaching out, being a little riskier with color. Also, during the late 90s, people got access to the internet. So they got to see more and more how other countries were treating color, okay, how other countries were using color. Orange had been big in Europe forever. Okay, orange has always been a big color in Europe. Orange has also been a big color in the Middle East. More and more people saw other people using color, and that actually started to influence the fashion and products in the U.S. more and more, all because of the birth of the internet. Also, orange, because someone did a study at one point that said orange helped increase appetite. Orange became a very popular color for fast food chains. Unfortunately, when a lot of these fast food chains first started, they looked really cheesy. Today, they don't look so bad. Okay? McDonald's, Burger King, they kind of tried to help increase their look. Not everyone looks that way, but a lot more fast food chains are actually improving their look more and more. But today, you see orange in just about anything you can think of. Everything, apparel, accessories, home products, appliances. Orange, and this is kind of an interesting fact to keep in mind as designers. Every color, not every color, but a lot of colors have physiological effects on people. Okay? The color red actually helps, not helps, color red actually increases your heart rate. Okay. Color red also suppresses endorphins in your brain and makes you more apt to take risk. And that's why the color red is so prominent in areas like Las Vegas and Atlantic City. They don't want you being conservative. They want you being excited. They want you taking risk. The color green actually increases your respiration. Okay, so green is seen as a very soothing color. Orange, physiologically, when you're looking at orange, you get the impression that the color is always expanding outward. Okay? It seems to have an energy to it. Okay? It's very invigorating to look at. And if you use that in your designs, you can actually give that effect. Okay, that this product actually is larger or bigger or more energetic than it actually is. Orange is also a great color for children. Most kids, well, all kids, start with primary colors. Then they move into their secondary colors. And orange is the first secondary color that actually relates to. It's a very happy, very cheery color for children, which is why you see so many children things in orange. This is kind of just another fun kind of thing to know. Crayola makes a magic scent box, okay, that they still make today, where the colors actually expand in different flavors. When they first came out with the orange crayon, it actually smelled like oranges. And orange is so tantalizing with humans that it actually increases your appetite, that smell of orange. All the kids were eating the orange crayon. So Crayola actually, after repeated complaints from parents, stopped making the orange crayon for a very long period of time. And then they brought it back, but they changed the scent to a non-food scent. It stopped. Orange, like I was saying before, orange is really big in Europe. So the French have always kind of gotten orange. Okay, they still know how to use it today. You see it quite a bit in French advertising, like this advertisement for Soleil Orange. You can also see it more in US advertising as well. There's kind of a fun ad from Campbell's inviting you to meet orange, red's delicious cousin. A couple of years back, Clinique came out with this product called Happy. So up until this point, whenever you walked into any cosmetic section of a department store, all you saw was blues, greens, and whites. Okay. Every cosmetic product seemed to have the same color palette. Clinique came out with this product Happy, and they colored it orange. So immediately you walked into a cosmetic section and you saw this bright orange product calling out to you. It made them very, very successful. It's been a very successful line. Some people, when we talk to people about orange, especially older folks, still think that orange can be a little cheesy. You know, they remember orange, the oranges of the 60s and 70s, and they think, well, you know, fast food is kind of a cheaper product. Certain brands like Hermes have totally embraced orange. Okay? Orange is their color. They make products in so many different categories. Okay? It's color orange. It's their brand color. And when it comes to being upscale, you really can't get much more upscale than it is. Another interesting thing that we're seeing more and more orange in is in concept cars. So all the auto shows this year, a lot of the major manufacturers have sports cars, have really high-tech cars in orange. Okay, so we're actually going to start seeing more and more orange cars out on the road. But this really isn't a new phenomenon. There was a period of time where we had a lot of orange cars. Does anybody know when? Maybe a decade? Yes, late 60s, early 70s was a really big time for orange muscle cars. So everybody knows the Dukes of Hazzard, right? So yeah, during that era, are there all the Chargers, all the Camaros, everything, Mustangs, everything was done in burnt orange. So we're seeing orange coming into areas that you wouldn't have thought before. So these beautiful orange countertops, okay, homes, other types of furniture and interior decor, high-end contract furniture, again, all using orange. And some of you guys might know we have a hotel in Brussels. We have a Pantone hotel in Brussels, Belgium. And the theme of the hotel is really saturated color with white. Okay? We have this orange bike, and we have a couple of orange bikes in the hotel. So if you stay at the hotel, you can ride around on these orange bikes if you need to get around town. Orange is also a great color for packaging. Okay? Next time you're in a store shelf, in a store supermarket, take a look down the aisle, especially the cereal aisle. See how many oranges there are. Orange is the type of color that really jumps off the shelf. It's a great way to draw someone's eye for consumer packaging. Also for retail floors, orange draws your eye. Okay? Especially if you have orange or orange products that reflect a lot of light. It's a great way to kind of encourage people to come to an area on a retail floor. It also looks great in store windows. Okay? It invites people to come in. Okay? It's a very inviting, warm color. Also, when using orange, most people are very safe with orange. They think of orange or brown, they think of orange or gray. Orange can be a great color with different combinations. As you can see here, with this orange and pink combination, looks really great. Oranges and purples, oranges and greens work really well, and you're seeing more and more fashion. And we survey designers twice a year, and we put out a fashion color report. And we'll sit and talk with designers before New York Fashion Week and look at what colors are actually putting into their lines. Both at the end of 2011 and the beginning of 2012, we saw a lot more people working orange into their lines, which is one of the reasons why we do this. We obviously have embraced orange. So with these mugs and other products as well, Tangerine Tango, we have a whole line of Tangerine Tango products that we have actually been selling really well. We're seeing orange now on catwalks, fashion shows, in the street. A lot of people are using orange, not just for accessories, also for shoes and accessories, and then the interior. We've also recently done a partnership with Sephora. I don't know if you guys have been in the Sephora lately, but at the end of March, Sephora launched this makeup line in partnership with Pantone Lecture, where it's based around the color of the year. Not every shade is a Tangerine Tango. Tangerine Tango is just kind of an green shade in the palettes, but they kind of put a whole line together for Tangerine Tango, and it seems to be doing really well. So again, look for orange for the next couple of years. It's definitely a color that's going to stick around. Here's some palettes just to kind of get you inspired. The top palette, the orange color is a little hard to see, I know in this projector, but the orange color in the middle. The top palette kind of combines the orange with classical Nordic blues. So this is more of a classic American palette, which looks really good. The middle palette has the orange playing off the teal or the turquoise or the seafoam based on the shade. This is considered to be a very fashion-forward palette. And even though we saw a lot of orange and teal in the past, now it's kind of considered a very fashion-forward palette. J. Crew has used this quite a bit. If you walk into J. Crew this year, and you're going to see more and more, especially in women's apparel, this orange and teal together. The bottom palette is all warm colors. Okay? It's a very dramatic palette. So you're pairing your oranges with the pinks and your yellows and your reds, and you're anchoring them with a really dark black. Okay? It's a very dramatic palette. It's a very eye-catching palette.
Mm-hmm.
Gio has a little teaser video that he's going to hopefully share, and we can talk a little bit about the purpose of that teaser. Is that your dog?
No, actually. This is a really cute book.
Tangerine Tango?
That's a Tangerine Tango video. I'm going to show this video really quickly. I'm hoping that you guys can actually hear the sound. Just to kind of set it up, today Pantone launched 336 new colors to our Plus line, which is a line that most people use for graphic design work. I actually have some product I'll pass around so you guys can take a look at the new colors. So as part of the campaign, we're putting this together. We're doing some brainstorming as part of the creative, and we were thinking about the whole inspiration process and how designers kind of work through their inspiration process. And the creative mind is not an easy thing. Sometimes you're struggling for ideas. Sometimes you have too many ideas and you can't quite settle on one. Sometimes you have a very difficult time just flushing out ideas and getting them out of you. So we figured we'd do a quick kind of inspirational video talking about the complexities of the creative mind. This is what I'm going to show you now real quick. It's about a minute and a half. Hopefully you guys can hear it.